Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the news you need to know about. After we through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A, we answer fans' questions. Good amount of information. I mean, we're very close to the draft. You know, Chris Greer said some interesting things, which we're going to talk about. We signed a couple people. We got some updates on some players that I know everybody's interested in. And I think after the draft is going to be even more exciting. And obviously when Xavier Howard money clears and we get more cap space, that's going to be very interesting as well. So there's a wave of free agency that hasn't happened yet, and there's a lot of really good players on the board. So we're going to get into all of that in today's show. I think we'll start here. Dolphins, add another special teams player. This is one of my favorite things that we've done so far this year. Obviously, signing the Bills, who's a very good special teams player, Siren. I think it's Siren. Can't remember his name. But he's a really good player on special teams. And I don't have to bring up the Justin Bethel play for everybody to understand why. I mean, our special teams coverage and honestly return game has been really bad since Mike McDaniel got here, especially. So the fact that they've invested in this is pretty nice. Cam Brown for the New York Giants played over 1,300 special team snaps, averaging more than 80% of the Giants' special team snaps. So this is another player, and by the way, I don't want to read this entire article because it's kind of long. This comes from Sports Illustrated. But a lot of Giants coaches raved about his size and speed. So this is a great athlete who's a younger player out of the 2020 draft and who has played a ton of special, over 1,300 snaps, and played 80% of the Giants' special team snaps over his career in New York. So this is a player who's going to add great athleticism and should really help our special teams. I want to say we gave up. I mean, I can think of like major return. Obviously, the Justin Bethel one, the one against the Packers and Mike McDaniel's rookie season, the one against the Ravens that was Duvernay. There've been a lot of like really bad special teams play from our team in big moments. And hopefully, I mean, it should. I mean, by the way, like the fact that Justin Bethel, it's weird that we went into the last year with the special teams unit that we did. But to add these two players who are younger, way younger, and are really good at playing special teams is important. And it was an area that we needed to address, and I'm glad that we fixed it. And we'll really see in preseason. And obviously we still have the draft and free agency of the draft, college free agents who will also add to special teams. And who knows, we might find, Chris has always done a great job of finding young players who can, in the later rounds or even undrafted free agents, that can come in and make an impact. So I hope that, and I'm glad we added veteran talent to special teams. So the combination of all those things, hopefully, and I'm not even saying hopefully, we will have a better unit next year. And if we had those two players last year against the Bills, we probably would have won an AFC East championship. Still bothers me. I'm sure it bothers all the Dolphins fans, but it's hard to believe. I mean, we were really one game away from winning that. And having a home game in the playoffs, which would have been a huge deal. And it sucks that it kind of came down to one of the laziest plays I've ever seen in my life with an AFC East championship on the line. So I'm glad that this is something that they've invested in. This next news story is very interesting. Has some interesting nuggets in here. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Latest on Dolphins wide receiver pursuit. And this is not just Odell, but some other players as well that we've talked about. The team has reportedly made an offer to Odell Beckham Jr., which everybody already knows. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald says that Miami remains Odell's top choice, which I think is an interesting thing because I know that it says we made him an offer, but I don't even think there's a market, or maybe not really an offer, until after the draft, because we all know this and it's been talked about constantly, but the receivers in this draft are really good. So there's really no point in doing anything at that position and I think that's really why he hasn't been signed yet. And so, and maybe they're waiting for more money to come in. There's a lot of different reasons why, and I think the number one reason, if I had to guess, would be it's because the draft is so deep at receiver. But it's nice to know that, I think that's an interesting nugget that Miami still is his top choice for whenever they get around to doing it. The organization has been also mentioned as a suitor for free agent Tyler Boyd. However, the longtime Bengals wideout isn't looking to take a major pay cut on the $10 million he earned last season. He is not. I love Tyler Boyd, but if you look at them at this point in their careers, Odell has a higher ceiling for what we need him to be than Tyler Boyd. I think Odell had a very good season last year and still has a lot of the attributes that make him a great player. He's not the same athlete that he used to be, because he used to be a freak athlete, but he's still a very good receiver, very good route runner, and he's honestly still pretty good after the catch. So I think he's still better than Tyler Boyd, and if you're going to pay $10 million to anybody, it should be Odell, not Tyler Boyd. And I think one of the things that's lacking in Boyd's game, especially at this point in his career, is his run after the catch isn't as good. It's not even close to Odell's, which I think is important for this offense. So I've never been a huge fan of that suggestion necessarily, even though Tyler Boyd has played the slot position pretty much his entire career. But I still think even at this point in their careers, Odell is still a better after the catch player. But like I said, Boyd has a lot of experience in that position. Another interesting one, Tyreek Hill has pushed for the Dolphins. Again, this all comes from Pro Football Rumors. Tyreek Hill has pushed for the Dolphins to pursue Michael Thomas, but Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald says that the front office has been, quote, more mindful of pursuing players with significant injury histories. Now, Michael Thomas would be very interesting because all of his success throughout his career has pretty much been from the slot. This is a player who dominates at that position. Now, his run after the catch is not even close to any other. Tyler Boyd and Odell are way better after the catch, especially at this point in Michael Thomas's career. But he's a savvy player, really good red zone target. So it would be an interesting, and I think would be a good fit. Big body. And again, I think the key thing here in this article is that they don't want someone who's going to come in and not play. And they are looking for depth at that position. And they had two of their best players at that position get hurt last year. And we saw how the absence of Waddle and Hill at one time, or even one without the other, not necessarily one without the other. Waddle did a good job of playing when Hill was out against the Jets. But when those two aren't on the field, or even when they're on the field and maybe one's on the field and he's been taken out by a double team or something like that, the drop off in talent, and I've said this so many times, it's too drastic. So I can totally see why they don't want. I mean, you can't, based off of the history of Michael Thomas, you cannot rely. And there's a lot of questions about the dude's motor, and when it comes to actually wanting to play the game, which is weird, but I mean, if you look at the evidence, it's pretty glaring. So I don't think anybody would want a player like that in the building. So really, the only free agent I think is worth anything in terms of like making a huge impact on the lineup would be Odell Beckham or the draft. Those would be the two biggest ones. This next news story, but a very interesting article, I thought was a very good update on that situation. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Outside linebacker Carl Lawson visits with the Dolphins. Carl Lawson's had a weird career. He's never been a three-down guy, I think if you just look at his career, dealt with a ton of injuries. Mainly a pass rush specialist. Obviously, the Jets signed him and thought they were going to get exactly that, someone who can come in on third down and just rush the passer, and that's really what he's best at. But this is another player that has had a lot of injuries. So, and we just read what they think about that when it comes to these free agents. have been very, and like Barry Jackson, the Dolphins have been very mindful of that in this offseason. So I don't know how they view him, or I'm not really a big fan. Because if the concern is that the guys aren't going to be ready for week 1, then why would we get a player is one-dimensional? And there's nothing more than I hate more than a one-dimensional defensive end. I think it's ridiculous. I really don't understand it unless you have a veteran team with young players in front of them who can rotate in and out. There's no reason to have a player. So to count on this Carl to play 3 downs, I don't know if that's a good thing. I actually know. I mean, it doesn't. To me, it's not a good thing. I mean, I remember players like Andre Branch, who really were always people or smaller defensive ends who can come in, or maybe even really should just be outside linebackers, and come in and just kind of, they always got blown off the ball, terrible run defenders, and were just really good at pass rush, and that's literally all they did. Like, Bruce Irvin was probably kind of a worse example of that, but, Keon Chason, Kayvon Chason, the outside linebacker, is a good example of that for his career. Like, players like that, I just, I don't know if that's really the case. Now, if we get Carl Lawson and he's like, I'm just coming in on 3rd down, that's great. That's fine. I don't think that's, but to rely on him to play major snaps is not good. So, I don't know. Honestly, it's a weird job because it's like you are depth, but you're not good depth. So, I don't know. Between the injuries and his ability to play 3 downs, not a great signing in my opinion, if that were to happen. But he's a great rotational guy. Trying to figure out where we want to go here next. These are very interesting. I think we'll just go ahead and do this. Now, before we get into this, I read, I believe I couldn't find the article, but it was reported, and it might have been in, I can't remember, but Chris Greer obviously wants to extend some of our younger cornerstone players like Javon Holland and Jalen Waddle, which I think is great news. And I guess I'll check it after we talk about these 2 articles. But we'll start here. This extra story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins. Well, we'll start here. Dolphins, Jalen Phillips said he's aiming for a week 1 return. Not much there. Of course he is. Who knows if that'll actually happen or not. Not much of a... Okay, here we go. Here's the article. We'll talk about this after. Dolphins, to exercise outside linebacker Jalen Phillips' 5th-year option. Great news. They push his rookie contract through the 2025 season, which is great. He's been a great player. It's kind of a dangerous thing, especially with Jalen. Because, it would be nice if he just pops off this year, which gives him kind of good wiggle room to negotiate something. That way he's not on the free market. But if he goes all the way to his last year, then that's kind of too much of a gamble. But I don't know. It just makes me feel good that one of my favorite draft picks of the last 10 years. Dolphins obviously also exercised Jalen Waddle. Phenomenal draft. Again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. All good things. And obviously Devontae Smith, who just got a deal. Pretty good deal for the Eagles. Again, it could be a little bit dangerous if they wait a little bit too long on Waddle. But this next 2 story, Dolphins eyeing extensions with wide receiver Jalen Waddle and safety Javon Holland. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. I don't know. I was confused. I lost this thing. This article. It's like, where did I have this? But anyway, it comes from Pro Football Rumors. An extension for quarterback Tua Tagovailoa represents a major offseason priority for the Dolphins, but a pair of players drafted 1 year later are also eligible for new deals. Miami is interested in working out an agreement in both cases. The Dolphins are expected to pursue an extension with wideout Jalen Waddle and safety Javon Holland reports Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. Phenomenal news, especially after losing players that we've drafted and developed in this offseason, like Christian Wilkins and Van Ginkel and Robert Hunt. It's nice to see that these guys are a priority. And the reason I say that is because of past regimes just letting talent go. And I don't have to bring up, there's so many names that we could all bring up that the Dolphins have just kind of let go. And it's nice that these players are cornerstones of the franchise. I mean, I don't really think, I'm trying to think, man, like, granted, let's just say pre the prime Chris Greer era, which you could argue is probably like 2020 or in 2019 on. Before that, first of all, our drafts were worse, and not really. I mean, I don't know. Maybe let's just go back to 2015, before 2016. The only bad draft I can think of, maybe 2017. In that span, but the point is that before 2015 or 2015 and before, anytime we drafted a good player, they just left, and that's why I think this is a good. It's great news to hear that. I mean, you especially going through the Tannenbaum era, and I always bring up that quote of him saying that it's like college. We know we develop players for other teams. It's like, dude, what are you saying? And that was the year we lost Lamar Miller and Olivier Vernon to the Giants and Texans that year. So it's good that we're keeping our star players. Like, it would break my heart to see Jalen Waddle in a different uniform. And it's good that these are a priority. And it's good that we're finally, in my opinion, I know it's been kind of controversial, but I think Chris Greer has done a good job of picking players. So it's nice that he's rewarding these players and we're keeping these players in Miami. So this is honestly one of the better news of the offseason, especially with Holland and Waddle. And I'm very excited because there's so much offseason left. And so much we can add on. And I'm sure Jalen Phillips is also on this, soon to be come up and sign. I mean, the worst pick of that era, definitely, just thinking about is Igbenogany. And he signed Austin Jackson already, which is good. And now, obviously, we're waiting on Tua. And I do want to mention this because we talked about this before. The Dolphins pick a quarterback. Clearly, they're not going to. After what Chris Greer said in the press conference, it would be even more crazy if they did now. But I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the Tua contract is. There's really no news update on it, other than they're talking. Of course they are. So who knows what's that number is going to eventually be, if it will be top of the market or not. But it's nice that they have the future in their thoughts and they're planning for it. And I'm just excited for them to add on to this team because I think they've done a nice job early on in the offseason. And I'm excited to see. And it sucks that we lost good players, but I think that they've added good players. So I'm excited to see what they do in this draft because I love this draft. There's a lot of players that I really like. I'm trying to temper my expectations because it could be someone I hate, and that's happened a lot. You know what I mean? So I hope it's someone that's. Here's what I hope. I hope it's someone that is hype, and that's all I will say. I hope it's not something that's like, oh, they reached, because that would really suck. Because I really like this draft, and the potential of talent falling is very high because of the amount of quarterbacks that are being talked about currently. So the Dolphins are in a good spot. They could really get somebody good, and if it is someone, it could be my personal wants is either outside linebacker or receiver. I think, or guard, depending on who it is. Like, if it's reach, then I'm gonna be pretty upset, which I don't think they'll do. But if it's like someone like Powers or Funga, I can't remember his name. there's a couple guys that I really like. The tackle out of Washington is actually really good. They could probably move him to guard. So there's some good linemen, and I think a lot of people have talked about that, how deep that position group is. And maybe one of them will follow, but hopefully it's not a Charles Harris. That's all I'm gonna say. So I definitely want to do a mock draft before the draft happens, which I usually do every year. So I'll try to get that out soon. But yeah, some really, I think, positive stuff that is important. With the fifth-year options being exercised on Waddle and Phillips, and obviously Barry Jackson reporting that they are working on extensions with Holland and Waddle. That's a very big deal. And the improvement of special teams and receiver being a priority is all music to my ears, because I think those are things that need to be fixed. And like I said, if they nail it, if they actually get a third guy in this offense, whoever that may be, the lineup is going to be better than last year. And people are freaking out about Devon Achane going into year 2, how he looks better. So, and again, like I said, which he will be better in year 2, but that if they can just nail that, which I hope they do, that lineup is going to be better than a team that scored 70 points. So that's pretty crazy. And they're going to be able to do more schematically if they get a third guy, because Jonnu Smith is a massive upgrade from what they had before. So yeah, this lineup is people talk about have the Dolphins improved. If they do that, then yeah, this is undeniably a better lineup than it was last year. So and they have the opportunity to do it. Hopefully they hit it out of the park. And they have visited with Xavier Worthy. They have visited with him. It could happen, everybody. And they do have a second-round pick. So I'm very excited for this draft. That is it. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I think we covered everything. I'll see you guys in the next one.